Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar. My name is Nathan and I'm the MD of Aspin. So today is going to be the first of a series of Aspin webinars where we'll be sharing our learned best practice on how to get more from your B2B website. So I went through this last night with my children and their feedback was I wasn't smiling enough. They said I was looking fairly miserable. So I'm going to try and also keep a smile on my face most of the time through this. So I actually put them through it twice, but you only get to go through it once this afternoon. So the learned best practice that I'll be sharing with you today very much comes from Aspin's experience of working with many brands and distributors, first specify, then build, launch, and finally grow their B2B websites and portals. So today I'm going to be looking at some of the common frustrations and how you can get ahead of these to optimize your customers' online experience with you. So before I start, a few housekeeping points. So the presentation is going to be around 20 minutes, followed by 10 minutes of Q&A, assuming there's some questions that need answering. And during the Q&A, I'm going to answer all the questions that come in. And if there's lots of questions, I will answer those in the follow-up communication, which will contain all the questions answered. And finally, a link to the recording of the presentation will be emailed to all attendees and registrations today, which you're welcome to share with colleagues or other interested parties. So I'm going to start this presentation with an audience poll. So on the screen, you can see the challenges that Aspin regularly talk about with customers and prospects in relation to their B2B platforms. So we're going to be running a poll, which I'm going to share the results at the end of this Q&A session. It's going to be interesting to identify the biggest challenges amongst the webinar attendees today. And be assured your responses will be anonymous. So I'm quickly going to run through each of these challenges before the Zoom poll pops up on your screen and you can enter in your thoughts on where you are. So one relates to uptake. There's not as many customers using your trade website as you'd hoped. Two, order volume means there is not enough volume or quantity of orders being processed via the platform. Three, reflects the website not being understood or promoted by everyone in your business. Four, relates to the integration with your head office systems, ERP and other sort of data sources, either not having enough depth or not being in place at all. And finally, five, perhaps you don't have a B2B website at all. And I know there's a few consultants on today or people that are unlikely to have a website. So I'm just going to pause. So if you could, this is a multi-choice poll. So if you could pop in kind of where you feel you are today and what reflects your sort of situation and what resonates with you. So I'll just stop for a few seconds while we get some details in there. Okay, thank you, everybody. So, and as I said, I'll come back to this at the end, so we can look and see kind of what's common and typical amongst the type of people who are listening today. So, I'm going to start by just looking what is a B2B website. So, in very basic terms, it's a business-to-business e-commerce platform for your customers to place orders. And in these terms, it's not that different from a B2C consumer website. There's a clear difference between a B2B buyer and a B2C buyer. So the trade buyer is looking for a long-term partnership, whereas a consumer's interaction with a website is often one-off or ad hoc in nature. So this makes the lifetime value of a B2B buyer to your business far higher than the end consumer because they're going to be processing larger and more frequent orders. But the ideal of large and frequent orders is just one aspect of your B2B website. In becoming your best order taker, the customer portal will free up your sales team to sell rather than just take orders. It's also a way of engaging with your customers with the least amount of friction and the most amount of accuracy. And what I mean by accuracy is areas like customer-specific pricing, rich product information, self-service account management, such as the ability to review previous orders, back orders, make payments, etc. And all of this will create loyal customers who want to do business with you. As well as this, the website should be a central hub for all your marketing activity. So somewhere your customers can access product information in the images and download this for their own websites and their own sort of marketing content. As well, it should be a landing page for all your email marketing and social media campaigns, and somewhere for your business to communicate company information and announcements. And fundamentally, it should be something you very much feel proud of and is a representation of your business. So getting this right will deliver a significant return on your investment and create a powerful platform with which to grow your business. So at Aspin, we know that running a successful B2B website is not just about the technology, but also about having the right plan to grow your platform. So having worked with many B2B brands and distributors to deliver and performing websites, we know that those with a robust and regularly reviewed online strategy are most likely to succeed. So one way to look at this is to treat your trade platform as a valued member of your team, investing time and resource and applying targets to measure success and track progress, and to ensure that it's constantly growing, it doesn't become stagnant, and it's just moving forward all the time. So we often see that time and energy is put into the initial website launch, but then the impetus is lost, leaving the website to languish with the initial users, which might not be a small number, but you very much hope this to grow and grow. And therefore, you really need to keep that initial launch pace going and never sort of take your foot off the gas. So why does this take place? So it might be because the website becomes neglected by the marketing and product teams. They're seeing it as an unglamorous ordering tool rather than a real marketing powerhouse that it can become. So how do you get this right? So the beauty of a B2B website is that you already know your audience. Unlike a consumer website where you have little to no prior relationship with your potential customers, the B2B audience can be split into 4 distinct categories, each of which contains individuals and companies who you already know. So there's your customers with whom you already have a long-term trading relationship and regular interaction. Secondly, prospects who are going to want to get to know you before they place an order. Then your head office team, who you work with on a daily basis and keep the cogs turning, and everyone involved in sales, from the reps, agents, national accounts, and directors. Ensuring that each audience understands how your online platform is going to help them can be a notoriously difficult task. But ensuring you have a clear message as to how and why the website will benefit each of them is going to make this a lot easier. And this is called a value proposition, and that's what I'm going to be talking about during this webinar. So a value proposition is a statement clearly outlining the benefits to each audience. So what does a value proposition for your website consist of? So firstly, it will contain an explanation of what the website does, and then identify the obstacles between the tool and the audience, and each specific audience as well. It will then identify specific benefits for that audience, and finally put this into context of the big picture for your business. So the more specific and easy to comprehend that you can make this, the more powerful it will be. And communicating this statement regularly to each audience will help drive the continued growth of your website. So let's start with customers. So these are the companies that you're already doing business with. Some will already be using your website, and others will have shown reluctance to do so, so consequently possibly causing you some frustration. So we're going to first look at reasons as to why these customers are not engaging with your portal. And identifying these issues is part of defining an effective value proposition. Okay, so firstly, they might not be aware of the portal. So this might be due to a launch and forget marketing strategy with a big initial push for adoption, then little or no follow-up, which can result in customers maybe never actually realizing the platform was there, or perhaps using it a couple of times and then just going back to what they were doing before. It might be they don't understand the benefits. Perhaps they don't resonate with them, they weren't explained clearly enough, or they were not told about them in the first place. And finally, they might be resistant to change, still preferring to deal with the rep or telesales, just sticking with the status quo and carrying on with what they were used to. So how do you get them to use it? So this is where a clear and easily understood value proposition can really help. So the value proposition for your customers, so the people on this webinar, will be unique and focused to your business and sector. But these are some of the common areas that you might consider. So firstly, and obviously, they can place orders 24/7 at any time to suit their schedule, which, based on the modern working environment, people just need to do things whenever they need to. Secondly, they can manage their own account, such as checking the status of current and past orders, reviewing frequently ordered product, stock details, availability, all of this, which is really going to empower them to have a improved relationship with you. As well, giving them immediate access to new product, marketing materials, product information and images, things that are going to help them sell more, which is obviously both beneficial to you and to them. And giving and empowering them to do this is sort of a mutually beneficial situation. And finally, it's going to give them a personalized experience, meaning they can access their own specific pricing, relevant promotions, create their own favorite lists, and the ability to process orders in a way that suits them. So following on from this, a strong customer value proposition can also be used for your prospect communications. It becomes part of the why you want to be doing business with us. And ultimately, to turn a prospect into a customer, they need to understand your products. So the better you can articulate this, the more likely they're going to want to become a customer. Offering guest access to your website is a great way to accomplish this. So anybody can have limited access, but they can log in and see what a customer can access, but obviously you can control what they might actually see. If a prospect has a choice between an organization and one has a great online platform and the other doesn't, in today's environment, they're clearly going to prefer to go with the business with the good online experience. I think your buying audience has very much changed, and a strong B2B website is no longer a nice to have, but rather an expected part of a modern brand's route to market. So the next audience is head office. So some of the biggest benefactors of the B2B portal are your head office staff. So the functionality of a fully featured trade website will take away repetitive and mundane admin tasks from this group, freeing them up to focus on more productive tasks, which they're going to enjoy more and have more benefit to the business. So what are the common negative reactions from head office? So there might be a lack of understanding. They've never been educated on the benefits of the website. Secondly, they might still see it as an IT thing. The project was delivered by IT, therefore it can be managed by IT. And this is something we see again and again. And IT are often keen to move it on, but it just ends up sticking with them. And thirdly, they might be disengaged. For instance, your customer service and or marketing team might feel detached from the website, seeing it as just an order processing system, not a vehicle for marketing material and customer communication, which is really going to take it forward for the business as a whole. So here are some of the key benefits for head office from having a trade website. So firstly, efficiency. So head office staff can be utilised for more valuable tasks than re-entering orders coming in via emails or the phone. And when your customers do call, your team have more time to help them with more complicated and challenging queries. So next, customer service. So the business can be reassured that your customers can access new products, specific pricing, offers, promotion without waiting for a rep visit, a telesales call, or the next exhibition. So it means that your customers can always be interfacing with you, always sort of growing the relationship, and then the people involved in your business can really help support that and get involved with the more sort of the people side of it, whereas the website can do a lot of the automation. So thirdly, integrated. So the website is going to be directly fed from your head office systems. So your customers can easily access the most up-to-date account information and detailed product data. And the marketing team get access to rich customer buying behavior. And then the fourth one is timely. So customers can place orders and manage their account whenever they want, meaning less admin calls during office hours, and customers being able to make decisions more quickly. So if they can basically just, if they want to find something out, they can find it out whenever they want, be it in the evening or weekends, or without waiting for automated phone systems. It's just there at their fingertips when needed. So the final audience I'm going to be covering is the sales team. So they're being a group that can often make or break a website depending upon their stance. Some will be ambassadors for the platform, whilst others might inadvertently discourage customer usage. And we often find that there'll be certain territories and teams of customers, groups of customers that are managed by a positive rep, that adoption quickly grows. Whereas there might be other territories where the salesperson is less positive, and funnily enough, their customers really adopt the website in far smaller numbers. So why would a sales team not promote the website? So firstly, they might see it as a threat to their traditional role and income, and it's something that's working against them, not with them. But secondly, they might not see it as relevant. It's just a head office initiative, and one they feel that can't do as good a job as they've been doing for years. And thirdly, customer relationships. From their perspective, they've always owned those customer relationships, and now the website is going to get in the way of doing that and really take them back a step rather than take them forward. So your sales team need to understand the website is their friend and not their enemy. And this will form the purpose of your value proposition to them. So it's going to help them grow their accounts, their customers being able to place orders 24/7. And typically they would still be getting commission from this, allowing them to grow their accounts and allow for top-up orders and upsell in between their sort of regular phone calls or visits. So secondly, it's going to reduce admin and travel. So it's like having their own personal assistant that is always working. Since customers can manage their own account without having to call the rep or head office, when the rep does talk to them, they're able to focus on new products and initiatives. And really, rather than just being order takers, they're able to really work the account, and manage and give the best possible service to that customer. And critically, it's going to help them sell more effectively. And that's what any sales team wants to do, sell effectively. So it's going to allow them to concentrate on high value accounts and prospecting for new business. Small accounts can become self-sufficient with ordering and quick and easy access to information. But in order to do this, you need to incentivize the sales team to drive customer uptake in the website. It's effectively something that they need to sell into the account, like they sell in new brands or categories and groups of products. And finally, for sales leaders, it's going to enable them to grow sales in new markets and geographic territories where they currently do not have any salespeople. And that's really important. Your website doesn't really have any, well, firstly, isn't salaried, it's just there. There's as many users you can use it. You really want to get onto the platform. But as well, and anybody can access it, or anybody can register and look to get access, which is a real vital part in today's sort of changing environment. Oops. So as I've discussed, there are a lot of reasons why your customers may not be taking full advantage of your trade website yet. And this can be frustrating for owners and managers who've invested a significant amount of time and money. However, a structured approach and defining the value proposition for each audience can weed out some of the reasons why performance is under par and not as hoped. So each of these audiences, so customers, prospects, head office, and the sales team, is key to making your website successful, and each needs to be targeted appropriately, and specifically. So customers might receive initial or ongoing incentives to use the website, such as discounts, loyalty points, promotions. For prospects, your website should be a key part of your marketing proposition to encourage them to want to do business with you. So very much, the more clearly you explain the benefits of the website to customers, it's also going to entice other people that want to do business with you. They can see how straightforward you're making it. And head office need to be incentivized to help customers to self-serve through the website. So when a customer phones in, rather than being given the information, they might be encourage your in-house customer services team to take the customer through the website and learn how they can do it themselves, which is fundamentally what the customer is going to want to do. And finally, the sales team should be targeted to get their customers to use the platform, as they'll be targeted to upsell new lines. And all of this needs to be done on an ongoing basis with a defined strategy, with communication at the heart of it. And this brings me on to our next B2B webinar. So on the 22nd of April, which I think is 6 weeks, I'm not sure how many weeks, anyway, after Easter, we're going to be doing our second sort of Get More from Your B2B webinar. This is going to be following on from today, and we'll build on how to utilize the value proposition. So we're going to be focusing on how to communicate these statements to the various audiences and incorporate them into your marketing and HR strategy. So if you're interested, maybe spend some time thinking about your audience between then and now and their attitudes towards your website. And we're going to try and involve people to using some of the sort of Zoom tools to make it sort of a collaborative discussion. So that is the webinar today. So, well, not the webinar, that is the presentation side of things. So we're now going to be moving on to the Q&A, but I think Andy has got the actual responses. Thank you very much. Right, so, I mean, if anybody has any questions, if you'd like to start popping them into the Q&A. So in your Zoom panel, either at the bottom of the screen or the top, there'll be a Q&A section. So if there's any specific questions that you'd like me to answer, please pop them in there. But so before we get on to that, we'll just look at the actual poll at the beginning. So the question I asked is, what is your key challenge? And we really looked at these 5 areas that we often talk about with customers and prospects. So I went through these at the beginning. So I will, so uptake, order value, misunderstood, integration, and no to B2B website. So looking at the stats, the 69% of people, or 69% of the responses, said that uptake was their biggest challenge. So, which hopefully, talking about value proposition and really looking at how you can position the website and how a good communication strategy is key to actually getting your customers using it. So a lot of people might choose to maybe focus on small sections of their customers in order to drive uptake amongst them, and then really learn from them and then share what those customers have benefited with the wider audience. The next thing, talk about integration, which surprises me. So good number of people said they were not that happy with the integration. Integration is obviously key because it ensures that your customers are getting the best and most appropriate information. And yeah, a couple of about 5 people said they said both the issue was both not having a website and also misunderstanding. So I'm guessing that is that their business doesn't understand the value of having a B2B website. Right, so I've got a few questions coming in now. So So what have we got here? Okay, so we've got a question here. So what is your best advice for customers who are resistant to ordering through the B2B website due to the preference of personal interaction? Okay, well, potentially your B2B website, although ordering is a key part of it, some people still actually prefer to order to a person, and you're never going to get everybody using your website. People are still key, but therefore you need to kind of push out other reasons why those individuals might want to use your website. So the ability to access stock information, download product images, get a depth of product data and see what's going on. So, those people who don't want to place orders via a computer, via a website, they prefer to actually sit down and have a discussion. You're not going to change everybody, but therefore for them, you can still position other sort of features and benefits of the website. So the website can really be for everybody, even if they're not going to all use all aspects of it. Okay, so a question here. So how do you cope with customers that need to place their orders on their own stock management system or use EDI, and they don't want to input things twice? Well, I think if someone's using EDI to place orders, likely they're not going to use the website. But again, as I said earlier, they might be logging into the website to access other information. If they've got their own stock management system, we've created various interfaces which the data which comes out of their systems can easily be just cut and pasted into the website via fast lines mechanism, which means that the data which their own stock management system has created can just rapidly create an order within our own platform. And I know there's a lot of other websites will also do that. Just reading this question here. Okay, a question about how you integrate the marketing campaign across different platforms. So right, Gus, I think I'll answer that offline because it's quite a complicated question. So I'll come back to that, but I will also answer it in the Q&A. Another question here is, who do you think should own the strategy? So this is an interesting one. So the strategy is key, and having a really robust strategy to drive the website is what we see is really the reason why businesses rapidly have a really popular website of their customers. And as I said during the presentation, often the website retains ownership by our IT team far longer than it should. And often they're quite happy to move it on, but they can't get the engagement of marketing or various other people. So really the website needs to be very much driven by the marketing team, and the leadership very much need to get behind it so they can understand this is the key part of our business proposition. And also something else that we see with businesses with successful websites is that the website is just part of what they do. So in all aspects of their sort of engagement with their customers and their sales team and their office and prospects, etc., their B2B platform is part of that. And they're just living and breathing it. And a living and breathing website is one that becomes quickly very successful. Okay, so we've got a question here for a prospective customer and how they might go through the ordering process and generate a wish list. So again, so a prospective customer might have some sort of guest access. So this is something we've been doing for a number of years with various customers, that a non-customer can create a guest account, and potentially that guest account, it's really they're a prospect, but they can still actually log in, but then you can define what type of access you want, because that guest account could be created by a competitor. So you obviously don't want to give away the crown jewels. So they can log in, and then potentially they can they could place an order just at standard trade terms. So I'd say that's a way of dealing with that, to give the prospect customer the ability to log in, and in exchange they've given you their details. You might then choose to not actually turn on that guest access until you've validated it, although I think normally now you just let them in. If they're going to give you the details, you let them in, and then potentially they could place an order and maybe pay for it on a pro forma basis by a credit card at the end. But there's various ways to deal with prospects, and it's definitely becoming, particularly in the last year, with some interesting scenarios which we've been going through. We've seen more and more businesses enable a guest login and guest ordering on their B2B platforms. So what else have we got here? Okay, so another one, a question here about websites that are outdated, and so outdated websites, sometimes that can mean they're not responsive, so it doesn't work on a mobile form factor. Well, there's a lot of websites out there which are I don't know, fairly basic, and outdated can mean a whole variety of things. So the question here is, so once the new one is launched, how do we ensure they take it positively? Well, I think that's kind of hopefully what I was trying to cover during this presentation. So it's really, to ensure they take it positively is to put together that really strong value proposition and ensure you educate them about how it's going to benefit them. And as well, look at different reasons. So it's not just about ordering, it's about the ability to manage their own account, to access product details, images, and just give them a real depth of experience with your business. And I think, and then actually communicating this with them, not just at the launch, but on an ongoing basis, adding, comments into your email footers, changing your invoices and statements so you're promoting the website. It really becomes part of the business, your business, and your customers are going to clearly understand, why it's a benefit to them to interface with the B2B portal. Okay, I'll answer one more question. There's quite a few questions here, but as I said, I'll come back to any I haven't answered. We will answer all of them, but we're going to run out of time. Okay. So how to incentivize staff to actually promote the website? Well, I think firstly, an incentive should be for like the head office people. You're going to be growing the business. And I think it should be incentive enough that by educating your customers to use the website and helping them to understand everything that they can do with it, is very much going to allow the head office team the ability to get stuck into other areas and really provide a better service to the customers. So things we see are like whiteboards with KPIs up in the office, so you can actually see the growth of the website and very much celebrate success. So have key milestones to the website, and when you have that key milestone, you might get pizzas in, give a reward to people behind it, and just it just very much needs to be part of the business. I think that's absolutely key. Right, a couple of questions have now actually come in saying people need to depart because they were expecting me to finish about 2:30, so excuse the slight overrun. So as I said at the beginning, the webinar is going to be recorded, so we'll share a link to this with the follow-up communications, and then all the questions over here I'll actually, or myself and my colleagues will answer via including a PDF. So some of the questions are a little complicated to answer. I just need to think about how to come back to them. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending this afternoon. I hope I smiled a bit. I did sense as I was in the middle of the webinar, I perhaps forgot to smile again. So apologies for that, and apologies to my children for not listening to their good advice. So yeah, so have a great afternoon, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you at the next webinar in April and potentially at exhibitions later in the year. So thank you very much and goodbye.